All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mitchell Blake with FishIBX. Today we're going to see if we can target a few stripers on jigs. My plan going in, plan of attack, I got a couple of different color jigs here. We're going to throw various colors, see if the color situation makes a difference. First off, we're going to see if we can get bit. Second off, if the fish play, then we're going to play with them and gamble on a couple of different colors and just see what the outcome may be. Going into this video, like I say, first thing is to try to catch a few fish, a few stripers on jigs, walk you guys through it, and then see if color matters. So stay tuned, hit the click button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out some of our old videos, and be sure that you subscribe to check out some of the new stuff we have coming out. So stay tuned. I'm gonna throw some jigs. We're gonna do a little bottom bouncing, see if we can get bit, see if we can put a striper or two in the boat. Today we're coming from the lower Roanoke River. Shucks, we're at the end of April already. So check it out. Let's see if we can stick a big one, see if we can stick a small one, see if we can stick a one. Sometimes when I'm fishing with customers and trying to learn how to give them a jig bite, and they're having trouble with it. That's a good fish. Some people say, well, I haven't felt it hit. I don't know what you're talking about. And usually what I'll tell them is just keep letting it fall. If you didn't feel the jig hit bottom, keep letting it fall. If you didn't feel it hit bottom, that's because it's not on bottom. Grab a little net on this guy. Flip that bail over. So that I can get some slack. Pretty nice rockfish. Pretty nice striper. He ate that hair jig. And I'm gonna pop that right back out. Like I say, if you, that's a barbless hook, so it pops right out. Barb's bent down, but you can't make a mistake as an angler because if you give it slack, he's gone. Really, really pretty fish. Pretty striper. I love catching fish on jigs. There's nothing like it. They absolutely thump it. Let's see what he would be. Normally this is keeper season. That's a 20.5-inch fish. That would be dinner. But they got the season closed right now on the lower. So anyways, back in the drink he goes. I shall release him on this side. There we go, buddy. Thanks for playing. A bit holding my thumb. See ya. Right back at it, see if we can get another one. If you need some jig heads or need some hand-tied jigs, like I say, I'm throwing feathers and fur on this guy. One of my favorites. Not knocking the plastic, I use a ton of it. Heard me say that in other videos, but if you want something custom tied, custom size, custom tie, you want it thick, you want it thin, give me a call. During the off season, I can tie some up, I can whip some up for you. If I can't get to them, I know some boys that can. I've got the wind putting a little bag in my line. Wind's blowing straight down the pipe here. And the key with jig fishing is you gotta keep that line tight in order to feel. As you can see here when I'm working the rod, I'm hopping it up and I'm letting a jig drop my, rod tip. I see a lot of folks will snatch a jig up and then they'll drop the rod tip and put about 3 foot of slack in the line. A lot of times the fish will hit it and spit it before you ever have a chance to react to it. So whenever I pop it, I actually let the weight of the jig drop my rod tip down. And if a daggone leaf touches it on the fall, you're gonna feel it. you'll catch a lot of fish doing that by letting the weight of the jig let your rod fall. And I hear, I mean, I have fished all my life, and I've listened to experts and pros, and I'm gonna give you my pro tip. A lot of people want to fish light as they can, okay? Totally understand that. It lets the jig fall naturally. I fished the Roanoke, which flows hard. It's a deep river. There's a lot of current. And I learned to fish as heavy as I can and get by with it. And the keynote on that, and get by with it, okay? If you come into this system throwing a light jig head, you're not gonna hit bottom. You're gonna throw it out, the current's gonna sweep it, it's gonna stand up. You're gonna miss a lot of bites. When you're fishing 18, 15, 16, 17, 18 foot of water, and you're throwing a jig, you've got to have it heavy enough to where it'll get to the strike zone. Now, if you go too heavy, it's gonna fall like a brick. Fish aren't gonna pay it any mind. But as heavy as possible, and I'm talking 3/8 half ounce stuff. Whenever I was a kid trying to learn how to do this, trying to learn how to jig fish, I'd always heard, you know what I mean? If you go online, if you back when I was coming up, most of it was reading books or watching videos. Everybody was throwing as light as they could. And even the guides that I learned from, they would say, you know, fish as light as you can, but they weren't fishing flowing water systems. They were fishing still water, at best wind-driven tides. And I remember the first year that I felt like I really cracked the code on stripers. It was in the wintertime. I was trying to learn how to drop shot, actually, for a bass tournament. For the bass tournament days. And I marked a bunch of fish on the screen. And I was trying drop shot, and had come, you know, that was a really big thing. And I was trying to drop shot these bass and started picking up stripers, and it really taught me a tremendous amount on how heavy you could go and the fish wouldn't bite it, and how heavy you could go and the fish would bite it. And if you went too light, how you would never get a bite, because it would never hit the zone that the fish were in. Even when as serious as, you know, you'd go in the tackle shop and you couldn't find jig heads to match what you were doing. Getting guys to do custom stuff. Hey, I need this hook on this application, the eye turned this way, and this amount of weight. And luckily, I've been fortunate enough to find some people that would teeter with it, and now they run. You know what I mean? As the game continues, people pick up on it and say, hey, you know, where do you get that? Where do you get that? How do you get that? All right, real quick, there's a little spot here I want to hit with a swim bait, just a little small profile swim bait. That was back there on my dash. It's already been torn 3 or 4 times, but I'm gonna try to salvage it one more time. One more fish off of it. This flathead comes to a point. I'm just gonna swim bait it a couple times. And now, I would hit this with a stick bait, swim bait, whatever. Like I say, I just grabbed a rod out of the rod holder and a soft plastic real quick. I usually want it up there straight, swimming right. It's swimming. These stripers will come up. They'll make their way upriver, and then they'll come back out. And man, there's going to be a point at where these fish are going to hustle these. I say hustle these lily pads. They'll work the edges of them just like bass, man, and they'll go to a little brim swim bait pattern, work the edge of these pads. You'd be amazed at the stripers you can catch, especially on post spawn when they're coming back down and they're hungry, man. You can find schools of them. You may have to fish a couple of hours. You may have to fish an hour, you may have to fish 2 hours, but eventually you'll find a stretch of river. And sometimes you don't have to fish long at all and find them. I mean, wear them out, son. Woo! My goodness, it's good fishing. There's a little example.
Said the word.
There's a little example. Little dude skirting the edge of the pad looking for a brim. Small fry, but target species. Man, he popped it too.
See, that's a no barb?
That one's got a little bitty barb on it. Yep. Not a big fish, but a fish nonetheless. Glad to see you. Could get a little bigger, buddy. Yeehaw. Anyhow, that's not a good representation of a properly rigged jig, but it's eat up, man. And this, once again, is a jig head that I had poured on a special wire hook. If I had some super glue, I'd make magic out of it. Let's see, has it got one more fish in it? Who knows? Let's see. I'm gonna throw it. That's embarrassing, right? To be throwing a jig that looks like that. Ain't that right? Oh, you didn't see that. Pretend like you didn't see that.
Oh, that's what those are.
Yep, lily pads are starting to come through, and they get thick. Those pads fill in, like I say, post-spawn usually. When these fish have gone upriver, spawned, or coming back out, what I'll do is get I'll get a couple of swim baits on. Miss you, baby. I'll get a couple of swim baits on, and it's a little guy out there beating my rig up, but a couple of different swim baits. I'll get right on the bow of the boat, and I'll work the pads. Won't throw into the pads. I'll work the edge of the pads, and man, you can see it when those fish skirt down them every now and then. If you pay attention as you're fishing, man, you'll see fish just running out of the water. Sometimes you'll see bait just kind of scurrying. And Mr. Rockfish has no problem eating a bluegill. There we go. I hear you, baby. I hear you, baby. Not bad. Not bad at all. Mr. Striper, 17-incher. Pop him back in the water. See you, buddy. Boy, that's embarrassing. Have you got one more in you? Look at this thing. It has been hammered. It's torn. Boy.
One more.
One more. Has it got one more fish in it, gang? It's got one more fish in it. Let's see. These pads, gang, are starting to grow off the bottom. Otherwise, there's a whole line of pads here. And if you have a machine or a depth finder, if you're let's just say you're not you're fishing a body of water you never fished before, you don't know where the pads are at, you can use your machine and ride along. You'll see these pads starting to come up. Doesn't take a real high quality machine to be able to see it. If you've got side scan on any machine, you can see these pads starting to come out. So if you go to a new system and you say, hey, I want to give that a try, you know, right along, you'll see them on your side scan. You don't have to visually see them in the water. They're just starting to poke through, and these fish should get on top of them or run the edges of them. Bluegill are starting to become active. Everything's starting to become active. There's one. stuck him, man. Weird strike. He thumped it, but come here, buddy. He thumped it. Come here, let's pop that off. Easy, 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 easy now. Easy, easy, easy. He hit it hard, man. Gee whiz.
Went up to his head.
Again, not a huge fish, but gee whiz, the thump. And that's one thing about a jig. I mean that jig is 5-inch, 4.5, 5-inch. Some of them I try to keep 3 inches. Some of them I try to keep 4 inches. Back in the drink, buddy. But with that, you kind of see what a jig bite is like. We've had better bites on the natural hair tie jig today than the plastics. I hope you guys had a chance to learn something, to pick up a technique or two. That's my goal, is hope you take something home from it. And if you're getting bit, like I say, a jig presentation, it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you can find the right little groove, the right little crease, and it'll be stacked with fish, and you catch them one right behind the other. Doop, doop. But this is an excellent technique to learn, and you can carry it across multiple species. I'm talking everything from the ocean to the mountains. But we're gonna keep plugging. I hope you guys enjoyed this little presentation. Started out with the jigs, switched over to a swim bait kind of in mid-pattern. You got to see a little action on that and why I did it. I was at the spot, even though you know, we were shooting a little jig fishing episode. I just kind of switched gears based off what I saw. And you get to see both of them executed. So anyhow, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you guys want a trip, come check us out. We'd love to have you. FishIBX.com. Stay safe and enjoy your time on the water.